Bruce Feldman did earlier today. Paul kind of touched on this with his triple option earlier today. Here's a list. I don't know how many you have on a page, Garrett.
I have 10. Give me one.
10 on each page. These are, and you'll see the names of the coaches ranked by Stewart Mandel 1 through 10. And then off to the right of the names will be a parentheses with a number of where Bruce Feldman had them ranked. And there's like maybe 4 guys inside one's top 25 that will not be a part of the other. Kirby Smart won on both ballots. Lance Leipold, 2. DeBoer, 3. Norvell, 4. Whittingham, another Big 12 coach coming into the conference, at 5. Brian Kelly, Ryan Day, Dabo, very highly ranked by Feldman at number 2 to the right of his name. Gundy, a third Big 12 coach, and then Jamie Chadwell from Liberty.
Well, I mean, obviously Stewart is smarter than Bruce. No.
So this is Stewart's list?
Yes,
this
Stewart's is on the left.
Okay.
And the parentheses is where Bruce Feldman had those same coaches ranked.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously, having Mike Norvell at 4 and not 10 makes Stewart the smarter one this year. But no, I think it's interesting, and both of them have Lance Leipold really high. And a lot of it, I know people will look and be like, well, we talked about it earlier. Lance Leipold hasn't won 10 games yet, but a lot of this is aggregate. Like it's what they've done in their career and how affected they've been down the line, which is why you have Kalen DeBoer pretty high. If you on the other list, which I know that we'll get to. But yeah, I think, I guess he's on both lists, but 3 and 4, well, look, he's been to one national championship game, and he's only been at Washington a little while before he went to Alabama, but there's a reason that he's so highly thought of and got that Alabama job because he's won everywhere he's been. Lance Leipold, same thing, just a little bit older than Kalen DeBoer, and obviously, like, number 1 is going to be Kirby Smart. He's the guy who's got the corner on the game now, and there's there's good debate among it. I do think that it's pretty funny that Brian Kelly was 6 on both lists, and Garrett would not give him that.
No, I mean, he's a top 10 coach, but I'm not putting him at 6. No.
Anybody that allowed anybody to put Perkins somewhere where he wasn't effective should not be in the top 10.
Well, it's not just that. It's like if you go and look at his history, every time he plays a good team or a coach that's on his level or better, he loses. Every time.
Didn't he beat Saban 2 years ago?
Well, except for that one. That's the outlier.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have I'm just kind of like taking it all in. There's things on, like Jamie Chadwell is the 10th best coach in the country.
But not ranked by Feldman.
I don't buy that whatsoever. I know Paul has a man crush on Jamie Chadwell.
I do.
But 10th best coach in the country. Liberty had a good year, but let's dive further into how good that year really was. And how great Caden Salter was against that schedule. But that one jumps out to me. The difference in opinion on Gundy is interesting. I do like that Stewart has him as a top 10 coach. I don't know. I feel like there's not really an exact science to this because some of it's just subjective, obviously. Some of it feels like very trendy, and then some of it feels like a lifetime achievement award. You know what I mean? Like there's like a combination of it here. So it's kind of hard to grasp like a theme because I do think depending on what slot you're looking at, it's one of those types of things. I respect that Bruce has Dabo still at number 2. That seems like kind of a lifetime achievement, or maybe he just thinks he's still the second best coach in the country. But obviously,
I thought he coached his butt off last year.
I think he did as well, but obviously a lot of people feel differently about that. So it's just interesting to see that he's still maintaining there at number 2, and I respect that. I absolutely respect that. Kyle Whittingham deserves the love. Norvell definitely deserves a boost. DeBoer is, obviously coming off of what he's coming off of and then being hired at Alabama. I don't know how much lower you'd have him at this point. But the Leipold thing, I mean, basically the agreement there that he's at worst a top 3 coach that's great respect for him, but that's great for Kansas to get that kind of pub and to have a coach after the messy line of coaches that they had preceding Lance Leipold, to have a guy that's that well respected, not only locally but nationally, I think is just great for them. And now the battle's going to be holding on to him for as long as you possibly can, because it's clear that there's some momentum there. So, yeah, we'd have to go like case by case to really get into a debate on any of these, but those are just some of the things that sort of stick out to me.
Here's where I think
let's get to the rest of the list.
Yeah, I do want to talk about Dabo real quick. I think this is where he's diverting. He's kind of in the Jerry Jones territory where he's still one hell of a coach, but he's not really that great of a CEO anymore. Where the decisions where he's kind of standing on these hills that the CEO would make these decisions. That's where, when it comes to the transfer.
From one of the most what's the word? That they were always just not good enough.
Yes. To elite. So he's still
To a standard that beat Alabama.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
won 2 national titles.
Yes.
That's not that long ago.
No. But my point is that he can still, when it comes to X and Oing and game planning and coaching up the guys that he's got and recruiting, he's still recruiting well. The problem is that recruiting has changed and that he won't open the door to everything else.
He might change.
He hasn't in this cycle yet.
Here's the thing: is I know Paul's very passionate about Dabo, so I think he won 9 games last year.
Yeah.
So if that's fallen off, then sign me up for that.
Yeah.
So where would you have him? Is what I'm going to ask you.
No, I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the top 10. I'm saying he does. I'm saying that's why he's different now in that he is an executive of the program, not the coach, the executive, the guy who runs the program.
Got it.
That part of it, he has taken a hit on, as where he was dominating that before.
All right, and maybe this year he goes back to winning 10 or 12 games. Who knows? Of course, what is that relevant? Because how many games now people are playing? Here's 11 through 20. Lane Kiffin, Fickle, Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, and again, the numbers to the right of the coaches are the numbers of where Bruce Feldman has them ranked. And so, like Kiffin's 11 with Mandel, 21 with Feldman. Franklin, 7th by Bruce Feldman. Kleiman, Clausen, Jeff Brom, Willie Fritz, who's not even coached a game at Houston, but what he's done through his career and also at Tulane, and then Jonathan Smith, who's the head coach at now Michigan State, coming off his run at Oregon State.
Yeah, I think that some of these guys on this list, to kind of get more consistency in these rankings, like I kind of agree with James Franklin more with Stewart than I do with Bruce on this because he just doesn't win the conference. Like he's like Brian Kelly, like really good coaches, but have yet to kind of break through that level against the guys who are also on this level. So James Franklin, to me, to take that jump, has got to start winning those games. Lincoln Riley has to start translating all this quarterback success to postseason success. Sark, I think needs to maybe a little bit higher in my opinion, but again, the sample size for him is pretty small. So I understand why he's kind of in that nebulous territory. And I like Climate. I might be a little bit biased. I would put him higher because he has won conference titles. But I think I like Stewart's rankings a little bit more than I like Bruce's.
Yeah, that's a big difference there with Lane and their opinions on him. I mean, 10 spots there, but not even a top 20 coach for Bruce is interesting. I think he's a top 20 guy. Sark obviously has got a lot of momentum right now. We hopping him over Riley already, I guess, because the situation out in L.A. post Caleb Williams is such a mystery. I guess so, and certainly based on most recent results, you have to do that. But just interesting to see how Riley's fallen from grace. I mean, this is an automatic top 5 coach like 2 years ago, right? I mean, top 10 at worst, Lincoln Riley.
Produced Heisman.
And now he's
got him in the
15th or whatever. Or I guess top 10 for Bruce there. I think that's going to be an interesting situation to continue following, is just kind of where Riley is in the grand scheme of things. I'm with Paul on James Franklin, like win something to be considered top 10. So I do agree more with Stewart there on the fact that Franklin's a top 20 type of head coach and really good at what he does, but top 10, nearly top 5 for what exactly? It's being super consistent in a big league. That's cool, but I mean, I need more than that as a Penn State fan at this point to want to put him any higher. And good to see some guys who probably don't get a lot of love normally, getting some love there down towards the bottom of the poll. I mean, Jonathan Smith's been all the rage this offseason, but Clausen and Brom rightfully getting some love there, and then Willie Fritz. That's great for Houston to get excited about their brand new coach, who's obviously got a lot of respect. I don't blame Bruce for not having him in the top 20, but I do respect Stewart for having him in there based on what he did at Tulane. So, yeah, I think that's a hire that a lot of people in Houston are rightfully excited about. And that borderline top 10, Lane and Sark and Riley and Fickle, that's a interesting little group there. You wonder who's going to crack through and maybe break into the top 10 here. You'd say right now Sark's the one with the momentum, but Kiffin's geared up this offseason. Fickle in year 2, like who knows what they look like in the bigger Big Ten. And then Riley, as we pointed out, has a lot to prove. So, yeah, it's an interesting list.
All right, so there's 5 more to get to. And here they are. Matt Campbell, Mark Stoops,
Should be
Jed
Fish.
Fish, not Jeff. Jed Fish. Josh Heupel. And then also Dan Lanning, Oregon. Is he too low? Been there, what, 2 years?
Yeah.
I think he's a little too low for both of them. Yeah, he's. I think Dan Lanning's the most exciting and interesting coach in college football right now. I mean, and to stay at Oregon after Oregon's gotten poached several times in a row now, and for him to stay there and double down when before he even came out with it, like usually the narrative is the SEC guy goes back to the SEC, but I know that things are changing. But I think that what Oregon has with Dan Lanning is very interesting right now, and he should be a little higher on the list. Again, this is probably a small sample size thing because he's only been a head coach for 2 years, but I think what he's doing and what he's been able to do up there, as aggressive as they are with the kind of cool vibe that Oregon just has naturally as a program.
He turned down an opportunity, probably would think, Alabama, Texas A&M, and name 5 other places. He said no to them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Or at least
yeah. And so, and I respect his reasoning. Look, I'm tired of moving, and this is kind of a cool place to be. So go live it up. I like that Mark Stoops is on both lists in that I do think that, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle. I know that Kentucky's not winning the SEC, but they were absolutely the homecoming game if you couldn't get Vanderbilt and the SEC for a long time. So for him to have them relevant and, winning games against rivals that they haven't beaten in a long time and winning them consistently, that's impressive at a school like Kentucky that he and Lance Leipold both on this list are schools that, there are times where you're giving dude, can we just play more basketball during that time of football season as opposed to having to go through all this? And now both those programs are relevant.
I guess we're going to talk to Iowa State's AD here in a second,
Yep.
so we talk about number 21 there. But, certainly a deserving spot there for Matt Campbell. I see Bruce didn't have him ranked at all. I don't know. I think Matt Campbell's definitely a top 25 head coach in college football, given what he's working with versus what others are working with. Mark Stoops, great coach. The A&M decision on him will be one to definitely pay attention to in the coming years, depending on what Mike Elko does. Maybe we never blink twice over the fan revolt over Mark Stoops, but if Elko struggles and Stoops continues to stay steady Eddie at Kentucky or even go past that, that's going to be something you look back on and wonder what if. Lanning, at 25 is way too dadgum low. To not even be ranked in another poll that's crazy to me. I don't know how I get it's a short sample size, and maybe you're thinking that he caught lightning in a bottle, but I don't see any reason as to why Oregon can't keep doing what they've been doing and do that for many more years to come as far as go and land big-time transfer quarterbacks, fill out the rest of the needs with the transfer portal. You're recruiting really well. I mean, I don't need to run down their resume. They're about as in good a position as anybody not named Texas or Georgia or maybe one or two others right now. So, that seems extremely low. But, again, small sample size. And then the rest of it, I mean, Matt Rule, I feel like you got to kind of prove some more to be top 20, but that's cool that I guess Bruce has given him that amount of love. I don't know if I'm ready to go there with him just yet, but he knows how to rally the troops and get people excited, and so we'll see what Nebraska does this year. But they definitely looked improved a year ago, so that's definitely a very debatable list we've got here, but it's interesting to look at.
We love lists, and even though there's just a couple of different columnists, wanted to throw that out there. Also, when we come back, Jamie Pollard